You don't deserve leftovers, sir." The words cut through the soft hum of music and clinking glasses in a high-end Chicago restaurant, and heads started turning. A man stood at the center of it all, clothes ragged, beard wild, clutching a crumpled $5 bill like it was his last lifeline. His hands trembled, his shoulders sagged, and his eyes, they carried years of exhaustion. Most people laughed. Some pulled out their phones. One man in a tailored suit muttered, "What is he even doing in here?" A pair of college girls at a back table giggled and whispered, "God, he smells like the alleyway snapping photos for their Instagram stories." But at the counter, a young waitress named Lily froze. Her heart thumped in her chest as she looked at him, really looked, and for a moment all the noise faded. "This isn't leftover food," she said softly, placing a steaming takeout box and a cold bottle of water in front of him. "This is your meal. You deserve it." The man blinked like he'd been slapped. He couldn't speak, couldn't move. Phones stopped recording. Even the owner, sharp-eyed and sharply dressed Ms. Grant, frowned from behind the bar. And then in one slow motion the man reached for his beard and peeled it off. Gasps rippled through the room like a wave. The wig fell, revealing slicked-back silver hair. He straightened his posture, shrugging off the tattered jacket, and suddenly he wasn't a homeless man anymore. He was Sebastian Cole, the billionaire developer, whose face had been on the cover of Forbes just last month. That morning in his penthouse high above the Chicago skyline, Sebastian had stood in front of a mirror, pulling on a threadbare coat that smelled faintly of ash, smudging dirt onto his face, until he looked like he'd spent weeks sleeping under bridges. He didn't want to be recognized, didn't want deference. He wanted honesty. No driver, no assistant, he'd murmured. Just me. He'd walked through the glass doors of the restaurant like a shadow, the warmth of roasted garlic and seared steak filling his nose. The reaction was instant tables shifting away, a father shielding his toddler, a server making a face as he passed. He'd taken it all in silently, each cruel glance like a tally mark in his mind. "Please," he'd whispered, voice trembling with practiced fragility. "I haven't eaten in days. Can I have leftovers? I only have this." He'd held out the bill, wrinkled and torn. The room had erupted into laughter. "Leftovers," someone scoffed. $5 can't even get you water here," another sneered. Even Ms. Grant had chuckled coldly, her heels clicking against the polished floor as she came over. "Sir, we do not sell trash here. Maybe check the dumpster outside." He'd lowered his head, heart aching not from the insult, but from the truth it revealed. This was why he was here, to see who still had a soul. And then Lily stepped forward. "Get me a full plate," she'd told the chef. "Chicken rice and a bottle of water. I'll pay for it." "Are you insane?" another waiter hissed. "He's not your charity case," Ms. Grant snapped. Lily had stood her ground, her eyes calm and unwavering. "Put it on my paycheck. I don't care." Minutes later, she'd placed the warm meal in front of him, refusing his trembling hand when he tried to give her the $5 bill. "Keep your money," she'd said. "You're a person, not a problem. Eat." He'd felt his throat tighten, tears threatening to spill. And that's when he pulled off the disguise and the laughter in the restaurant died instantly. Now Sebastian stood in the center of the room, hair gleaming under the chandeliers, his tailored shirt peeking from under the ragged coat he'd worn moments ago. His security team appeared at the door scanning the room, but he waved them down. "No one is in trouble," he said quietly, his voice calm but carrying weight. He turned to Lily. "What's your name?" "Lily," she stammered. "Lily," he repeated with a soft smile. "You told me I didn't deserve leftovers. You told me I deserved food." The rest of the restaurant was silent, ashamed, fidgeting with their napkins. Even Ms. Grant stood stiff, her fake smile gone. Sebastian leaned close to Lily and whispered so only she could hear, "I wasn't hungry. I came to see who would help. I came looking for kindness. I found you." She blinked, stunned. "Resign," he said softly. "Leave this place." Her breath caught. "What? You don't belong here anymore. Not under someone who laughs at the hungry." He turned toward the owner. "You should change this place, Ms. Grant. Start by changing your heart." woman's face flushed crimson, but she stayed silent. Sebastian placed a hand gently on Lily's shoulder. "Come with me." And just like that, she unclipped her name tag, her hands trembling, and walked out beside him, leaving behind a restaurant full of people who would never forget that moment. The black SUV purred as it rolled through Chicago's busy streets, tinted windows, shielding them from gawking strangers. Lily sat stiffly, hands folded on her lap, eyes wide, as the car pulled up to towering wrought iron gates. Beyond them stood a mansion that looked like something out of a movie. White pillars, a fountain sparkling under golden lights, manicured gardens stretching like a park. Inside, she was given a guest suite bigger than the apartment she'd grown up in. She sat on the edge of a plush bed, staring at her reflection in the gilded mirror, whispering to herself, "God, please let this be real." That night, Sebastian invited her into his study, a room lined with leather-bound books and the smell of aged whiskey. He told her everything. About losing his wife during childbirth, about holding his newborn son for 5 months before losing him too, about how, despite his billions, he'd felt like a ghost walking through life. "I wanted to see if kindness still existed," he said, voice breaking. "I wanted to believe in people again." Lily's eyes filled with tears. She murmured an apology, but he shook his head. "Don't be sorry. You gave me something I haven't felt in years. Hope." And then out of nowhere, he said, "I want to build something for you. A restaurant. The best in this city. A place that reminds people kindness isn't weakness." Lily's heart pounded. She'd worked 2 jobs just to pay rent, lived in a shoebox apartment, and suddenly this man was offering her a dream she'd buried long ago. At first, she didn't know what to say, but Sebastian encouraged her. "Tell me what you'd want, if money wasn't a problem." She hesitated, then spoke slowly, her voice trembling at first. "I'd want warmth. A place where families feel at home, where the smell of food feels like a hug. Tables big enough for laughter, a corner where kids can play, prices people can afford, and food that tastes like love." Sebastian's lips curled into a smile. "You just gave this place a soul," he said. Weeks turned into months. Architects and chefs joined the project, often looking at Lily skeptically at first, just a waitress giving orders. But Sebastian made it clear, respect her. This is her vision. She visited construction sites, tasted recipes, picked colors for the walls. At night, she'd stand by her window, hands clasped, whispering prayers to her late mother. Is this real? Can kindness really change a life like this? 5 months later, Kindness Kitchen opened its doors. The golden letters above the entrance glimmered in the sun. Inside, everything felt like Lily's dream, a space alive with warmth and welcome. The grand opening drew crowds, politicians, business leaders, families who'd heard the story of a billionaire testing humanity. Lily stood at the front, microphone in hand, her knees shaking. "I used to be invisible," she began softly. "A waitress working double shifts, a girl without family, just trying to survive. The day I met Sebastian, I didn't see a billionaire. I saw a man who was hungry, and I gave him a meal." Gasps spread across the room as people realized this was the woman from the viral video. She smiled faintly through tears. "This restaurant isn't built on wealth. It's built on one small act of kindness. Because sometimes that's all it takes to change a life." The crowd erupted in applause, some wiping tears. At the back, Ms. Grant stood, frozen regret heavy on her face. Sebastian approached her briefly, offering only one line, "Never forget this day." Months passed, and Kindness Kitchen became the heart of Chicago, a symbol of humanity in a world that often forgot it. Sebastian visited often, not because he owned it, but because Lily had become something more than an employee, more than a friend. One evening, under the soft glow of the city skyline, he confessed Lily, "You've given me peace I thought I'd never feel again. Maybe destiny doesn't give us what we want, but it gives us who we need." Tears welled in her eyes. For years she'd been told she was nothing. That night she realized she was everything to someone who mattered. 3 years later, Sebastian went down on one knee on that same balcony, city lights reflecting in Lily's tears as she whispered yes. Their wedding became the talk of the city, not because of wealth, but because of the story behind it. And 9 months later, in a quiet hospital room, Lily held their baby daughter in her arms, whispering, "Juliana, welcome home." Sebastian wrapped his arms around her and murmured, "Kindness didn't just change your life, Lily. It saved mine too." Now every time someone walks through the doors of Kindness Kitchen, they're greeted with warmth, good food, and a reminder that one brave choice can ripple through countless lives. What about you? Have you ever seen someone treat another person like they were invisible, or been that one person who showed kindness when no one else would? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this story with someone who needs hope today, and don't forget to subscribe. Because stories like this prove that even in a cold world, a single act of kindness can spark a revolution.